On the afternoon of August 20th, 2016, a 25-year-old woman named Debra Newell pulled into the parking lot of her apartment building in Newport Beach, California. It was an ordinary day. She opened her car door to let her dog hop out, and then a man grabbed her from behind, spun her around, looked her dead in the eyes, and said 4 words, "Do you remember me?" She did remember him. He was her mother's estranged husband, and in his car just a few feet away, the trunk was already open, waiting. Police would later find what was inside that vehicle, a kit containing duct tape, cable ties, knives, and his passport. It had a name among investigators. They called it a kidnap kit. This man had come to that parking lot to abduct and kill her. What he did not know, what he could never have predicted, was that the terrified young woman he had chosen as his victim would fight back with everything she had, and that in the next few minutes, the con man who had terrorized an entire family for 2 years would die on the pavement of that parking lot. This is the story of John Meehan, the master manipulator the world came to know as Dirty John, of the family he tried to destroy, and of the daughter who refused to become his final victim. Stay with me to the end, because this is not just a story about a predator. It's a story about survival. In the fall of 2014, a successful woman named Debra Newell decided to give love one more chance. Debra was in her late 50s, a warm, elegant, hardworking woman who had built a thriving interior design business in Orange County, California, along with other ventures. She was successful and financially comfortable, but she had been unlucky in love, with several marriages behind her, and now, with her children grown, she joined an online dating site for people in her age group, hoping to find a genuine partner. And then she met a man who seemed almost too good to be true. His name was John Meehan. He was tall, handsome, charming, and attentive. He told Debra he was an anesthesiologist, a doctor who had just returned from a year in Iraq serving with Doctors Without Borders. He had impeccable old-fashioned manners. He was intelligent. He spoke lovingly about his own daughters. He seemed, in Debra's own words, like the total package. He knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make her feel special, and he swept her off her feet with breathtaking speed. What Debra Newell did not know, what she had no way of knowing, was that almost nothing this man told her was true. She did not know that John Meehan had met her just 2 days after being released from jail. She did not know that the charming doctor act was a carefully rehearsed performance he had used on woman after woman. She was falling in love with a mask, and behind that mask was one of the most dangerous men she would ever encounter. The romance moved at a dizzying, almost alarming pace. Within about 5 weeks, John Meehan had moved into Debra's expensive waterfront home, and that speed, that urgency to lock everything down, was the first of many warning signs. But while Debra was swept up in it, the people around her were not. Her 4 children, and especially her 2 daughters, Jacqueline and Terra, took an immediate and powerful dislike to John Meehan. Something about him felt deeply wrong to them. Terra, the younger daughter, said it plainly. There was just something off about him, something she couldn't trust. She even noticed strange details that didn't fit his story, that this supposed doctor wore his medical scrubs absolutely everywhere he went, and yet had dirty fingernails, things a real practicing physician wouldn't do. The daughters begged their mother to slow down, to be careful. Terra confronted her directly, telling her the situation looked wrong, but Debra, deep in what she would later understand was a manipulation tactic, pushed back and told her daughter to mind her own business. And this was, tragically, part of John's design. Experts would later describe his behavior using specific terms. He used love bombing, overwhelming Debra with affection, gifts, and attention to create intense emotional dependency. And he used coercive control, slowly isolating her from her family, inserting himself into her decisions, and working to drive a wedge between Debra and the very people trying to protect her. Just before Christmas of 2014, without telling any of her family, Debra and John slipped away to Las Vegas and got married. The daughters were horrified. But even then, the true depth of the danger had not yet been revealed. That would come when the family started digging. Suspicious and frightened for their mother, Debra's family began investigating John Meehan's past, and what they uncovered was a nightmare. The family hired a private investigator, and the information that came back terrified them. John Meehan was not the man he claimed to be, not remotely. The reality was that he was a former nurse anesthetist, not a doctor. He had a long and disturbing criminal history. He had been arrested multiple times. He had a trail of restraining orders filed against him by numerous women. He was a serious drug user, accused of stealing drugs from hospitals across multiple states. He was, investigators and later journalists concluded, a practiced con artist and a suspected sociopath, a predator whose entire method was to identify successful, vulnerable women, sweep them off their feet with an elaborate web of lies, weasel his way into their finances and their lives, and then grow controlling and abusive, especially when they tried to leave. His nickname, Dirty John, went back to his college days, a name given to him by classmates for reasons that hinted at just how long his dishonest, predatory nature had been apparent to those around him. When Debra's children confronted her with everything the investigator had found, she was shaken and she left him. But here is the terrifying power of a master manipulator. Within a few months, Debra was back in his arms. John had convinced her that the damning information was all a mistake, that it was actually about a different John Meehan, a different man with the same name. He was so persuasive, so skilled at rewriting reality, that he pulled her back in even after his crimes had been laid bare. Debra's relationship with John would become an on-and-off cycle, her leaving, him reeling her back for a period of time. But eventually, the truth became impossible to deny. And when Debra finally made up her mind to be free of him for good, John Meehan's charming mask fell away completely, revealing the violent, vengeful predator underneath. By early 2016, Debra Newell had finally had enough. She left John Meehan for good and filed for an annulment of their marriage. And that is when the real John Meehan emerged, the one his previous victims had warned about. When Debra told him she was leaving, he became menacing. In one chilling exchange she later described, when she said she wanted a divorce, he goaded her, telling her to hit him and then warned her that if she did, she would never get up again. The charm was gone. What remained was raw threat. Debra went into hiding, trying to stay away from him. But John Meehan was not a man who let go. He stalked her. In a terrifying escalation, he located her car and set it on fire. The family hoped this act might finally get him arrested and out of their lives for good, but it didn't work out that way. And then John's obsession and rage began to shift, away from Debra and toward her daughters. He started stalking Terra. He called the dog kennel where she worked and made an appointment using a fake French accent, a bizarre and frightening attempt to get close to her. He sent messages threatening to kill Debra, to bury her body in the backyard, and then, chillingly, he said he would add Terra and her sister to the list. These were not idle words. They were a plan. And on August 20th, 2016, John Meehan set that plan in motion. That afternoon, Terra's sister Jacqueline spotted John lurking around an apartment building. Alarmed, she called to warn Terra, but the warning came too late to prevent what was about to happen. Debra Newell returned home from work and pulled into the parking area of her apartment complex. She got out of her car and opened the door for her dog, and that's when John Meehan struck. He grabbed her from behind, spun her to face him, and delivered his cold, terrifying line. "Do you remember me?" He had a knife, and nearby his car sat with the trunk open, ready. What John Meehan expected was an easy victim. What he got was a fight for survival. Terra fought back with everything in her. As he tried to force her toward the car, she resisted, screaming, biting him as hard as she could, kicking, refusing to be taken. He began stabbing at her, and remarkably, in the chaos and terror of the moment, Terra didn't even fully register that she was being stabbed, because the blade was partly wrapped in a fast food bag. Her small dog joined the fight, biting at Meehan's legs. And then Terra, knocked to the ground on her back, drew on the most unlikely source of strength. She had watched a lot of the television show The Walking Dead, and she remembered how the characters fought off attackers. Down on the pavement, she used her legs to kick, and she managed to knock the knife from John Meehan's hand. And then she grabbed it. What followed was brutal, and it was a fight to the death, because Terra understood with absolute clarity that if this man got back up, he would kill her. She stabbed him, again and again, in the head, the arms, the chest. The final blow, 13 wounds in all, went through his eye. And then finally, John Meehan stopped. Terra pushed him off and got away. A neighbor who witnessed the struggle rushed over with a towel to wrap Terra's badly wounded hand and called the police. In the moments after, a bloodied, shaking, traumatized Debra Newell made a heartbreaking phone call to her mother. "I'm really, really sorry," she told her. "I think I killed your husband." John Meehan was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. He clung to life for 4 days. And on August 24, 2016, he died of his injuries. The reign of terror was over. When investigators examined the scene and, crucially, John Meehan's car, any lingering question about his intentions vanished. Inside his vehicle, they found that bag, the one that would come to be called a kidnap kit. It contained more knives, cable ties, duct tape, and his passport. To the investigators, the message was unmistakable. This was not a crime of passion or a sudden loss of control. As the Orange County prosecutor put it, this took organization, it took thinking, it was planned out. John Meehan had come to that parking lot intending to abduct Terra, and everything he needed to do it was sitting in his trunk. Because of this overwhelming evidence, Debra Newell was never charged with any crime. It was determined, clearly and definitively, that she had acted in self-defense, that she had been fighting for her own life against a man who had come there to end it. The law recognized what was plainly true. Terra was the victim, and she had survived. For John Meehan's other victims, his death brought something unexpected: relief. After he died, more women came forward with their own grim stories of his manipulation and abuse. Debra even reached out to John's family, including his sisters and his first wife, and what she heard from them was chilling and validating all at once. They were not angry. They had lived in fear of him too. One of them essentially thanked Terra, understanding that she likely would have been next. John Meehan had left a trail of terrified women in his wake, and his death lifted a shadow from all of them. The story of Dirty John did not stay a private family tragedy. It became a cultural phenomenon. A Los Angeles Times journalist named Christopher Goffard turned the case into a true crime podcast in 2017, and it exploded, downloaded millions of times, topping the charts in multiple countries. From there, it became a hit scripted television series, with famous actors portraying John and Debra, as well as documentaries exploring the real story. The name Dirty John entered the popular vocabulary as shorthand for a certain kind of charming, dangerous predator. But behind the entertainment was a real family still living with the trauma. Debra Newell, in particular, carried the weight of what happened in that parking lot. She has spoken openly about her struggle with severe post-traumatic stress, with panic attacks, with the long, hard work of healing. She went to therapy. She found ways to cope. And over time, she reframed what happened to her, not as a source of shame, but as proof of her own strength. She survived. She had the will to defend herself against a man who had planned her murder, and she lived to tell the story. Debra Newell, too, transformed her ordeal into purpose. She wrote a book about surviving her marriage to John Meehan, and she has spent the years since trying to educate others about the warning signs she missed: the love bombing, the too fast pace, the isolation from family, the coercive control. She wants people, especially those meeting someone new, to recognize the red flags she didn't, to listen when the people who love them raise concerns, and to understand how easily a skilled manipulator can hide in plain sight. And that perhaps is the most important lesson of the entire case. John Meehan was not a monster who looked like a monster. He was charming. He was attentive. He seemed like the perfect man. The danger was invisible right up until it wasn't. Debra's daughters saw through him almost immediately and they were dismissed. Their instincts in the end were completely right. The story of Dirty John is, on its surface, the story of a predator. But look closer, and it is really the story of the women who survived him. John Meehan spent his life preying on others, building elaborate lies, terrorizing the vulnerable, and leaving a trail of frightened women behind him. He believed, right up until the end, that he was the most dangerous person in every room. And on August 20th, 2016, he chose as his final target a 25-year-old woman he assumed would be easy prey. He was wrong. Debra Newell fought back, and she survived, and in doing so she ended his ability to ever harm anyone again. Today, Terra and Debra Newell say they are closer than they have ever been. Debra's business thrives. Terra continues her healing, sharing her story so that others might recognize the danger sooner than her family did. They turned the worst experience of their lives into a warning that has genuinely helped others. They are not defined by John Meehan. They are defined by having survived him. This is the story of the Newell family and of the daughter who refused to be a victim. May everyone John Meehan hurt continue to find their peace. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and share it. It genuinely helps this channel grow and lets us keep telling these stories the right way, with respect for the people involved. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. And if anything in this story felt familiar, if you've ever ignored that quiet voice telling you something is wrong about someone, please know that your instincts matter and that help is out there. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay safe.